Dear friends, we are back with episode 4 of Coach Excellence Coaching Conversations. And today I have a fantastic coach whom I met probably a year ago. And I relish every conversation I have with him at every given opportunity. So that's none other than Coach Johny. And without taking any further time, I would request Johny to quickly share a short brief about himself. So we begin.
Thank you, Kiran. And hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, my dear listeners. My name is Johny Joseph, and I am based in a place called Bangalore, which is called the Silicon Valley of India, and Bangalore. And I have been working for the last 40 years in having conversations. The first 10 years, I had sales conversations with my clients, and the remaining 30 years, I've been having conversations as an L&D professional. And that's very briefly about myself.
Wow. So we have someone with total around 40 years of experience. So let's begin. Johny, the very first question. What is coaching to you?
Coaching to me, I just realized of late that is nothing but the conversations that I have in the last 40 years, and all of them have been uh, realized now that they are coaching conversations. Coaching means a conversation where it creates a seismic shift towards a goal or a result that the person who has the conversation with gets at the end of the conversation.
Wow. I think shortest response, but yet very powerful. When I heard two words, seismic shift and a journey towards a goal or a result, I think it pretty much resonates and communicates the impact that coaching can bring. I repeat the word
Yes.
of seismic shift, which is every one of us, and personally as a coach, often in that space, I experienced it and I can vouch for it. So with that, let's move on to the next question. Johny, who benefits from having a coach?
That's a very nice question, Kiran. According to me, there is just one set of living beings who benefit through coaching. And I'm sorry to say that it only limits to that one being, which is the human being.
Mm.
Anybody who's a human being would benefit from coaching, according to me.
Okay, so yet another very compact but very powerful response, which pretty much covers every human being that is there on planet Earth. I think it pretty much clears the doubt that most of them have as to if coaching is for them. I think as long as one believes in it and comes with an open mind, often as they share, every human being has an opportunity to benefit. And I'm not saying just benefit, immensely benefit, connecting back to the word what Johny shared, and achieve a seismic shift in their life, whether it is profession or personal space as well. Wow.
And and if it is a seismic shift, sorry to interrupt you, Kiran, if it is seismic shift, and when it becomes a seismic shift, that shift is often a transformational result for the person who's being coached. So I
Mm.
would like to add the word transformation with seismic because they go hand in hand. A city which gets with high seismic shift of an earthquake gets transformed into a new city. And so does a human being through a seismic shift in this conversation gets transformed into a new being that he wants to, is aspiring, and that transformation is irreversible oftentimes.
That's a fantastic analogy, Johny. I think one doesn't need to think further when you relate it with an earthquake. And often, though, the analogy mentioned about earthquake in many coaching conversations, I heard they do not expect, but they go through a very painful process in some cases. And as you
Yes.
mentioned, it is nothing less than transformational. And I think often I heard anything that comes as a transformation after a pain usually humbles people and it has a lasting impact. So that's a fabulous way to relate with this possibility for each one of us. So with that, let's move on to the next question. This has come up as a random thought, so I just plunked it into today's question. And no one is better than Johny to answer, I'm confident. So, but now I'm sharing. What has coaching done to you, Johny, as a coach?
Wonderful question. Coaching has transformed me into the being that I am today. And if I were to relate myself to who I was, let's say, even 40 years back, forget 60 years back of my life, even 40 years back, I can see that I have moved along, and it's been a very long, arduous, yet enjoyable journey for me to be where I am right now.
Wow. And anything that stands out for you in this journey, because this is such a insightful question. I don't want to leave Johny without getting something more from this.
Right. So it's like it was not a digital transformation, or it was like an analog transformation. So if I were to look at who I am in contrast to who I was 40 years back, it seems like a big change. But I can realize that it has been a slow yet gradual process of unfolding. Like I say, I often feel how a caterpillar would have felt that, this is the end of my life.
Mm.
The butterfly says the same moment as this is the beginning of another beautiful life. So I've had many such endings and beginnings in the last 40 years, which has made me who I am today.
Fabulous. I think yet one more analogy which often is very deep and powerful. Though I was aware in one of the conversations when they explained the change from a caterpillar to butterfly, it stood out for me as to how we choose to view it makes such a big difference for each of us. And another key takeaway for me that you mentioned, that the 40 years, how that changed. Now, if I look back, might look something transformational, but it has its that everyday progress that happened. Thereby capturing a word often referred to as journey. And typically they say coaching is a journey and not just like a short sprint towards a destination kind of. And I did notice many coaches mention that when the coachee sees it as a journey, they tend to benefit better and for longer duration of time. So with that,
Right.
let's move on to the next question. One myth about coaching that you would like to burst today, John?
That coaching is meant for high potential senior executives of organization, which is a myth which I have held uh, as a person who was hiring external coaches for my top talents in large companies like IBM, ANZ, and many other companies, is a myth that I want to burst completely today.
So how do you see the rest of the fraternity, of which few of them might harbor this thought, would be served on this myth? What can they look for, or what should they look forward to?
Yeah. So the myth is that, what has been happening since coaching is considered to be very exclusive and so-called expensive proposition, it has been invested only on senior and about to retire leaders of large organizations. And they are investing that amount to be able to reap the benefits of those coaching seismic shifts in those people in the remaining years of their service. Just imagine how much more can they reap when this investment is made at the starting stage of hiring a fresh graduate, or even going back to the university and coaching university graduates, you can just imagine the seismic shift it can cause
Mm,
in the kind of results that these youngsters can produce in their lifetime of their career to organizations, to therefore the economy, to the society, and therefore to their family and their own self.
mm. It's very interesting. And in fact, I picked up the term, as you mentioned, while you were mentioning, it is not an exclusive territory of anyone. And also, as you mentioned, the change that can happen when you invest in coaching early in the career of a professional. The other word also again resonated with me. The impact could be nothing less than transformational. I think there is
Yes.
no organization on planet Earth who would not want to have a transformational impact on their business any given year. I think they would love to have it year
Right.
after year after year. So I think investing early is a point that comes out as a very
Right.
valid thing to do for
Right.
individuals as well as organizations.
And I would like to also add, it is not from the investor's point of view. If there is a right to education and a right to earn a livelihood, I would go to the action of saying every individual has a right to be coached.
Wow. And I can imagine what good it would do to the human race if in 15 years a child studies and comes to that stage where he becomes employable, and if he continues to learn another 15 years, I just can't imagine what good it can do to the human race as such. So it's not about an
Yes.
organization. I think it is about countries and the whole planet altogether. A better
Correct.
human being is always a better option for the planet Earth. That I can safely
Yes.
say. And also, the last word that stood out for me while you were sharing this was the power of many. Coaching someone who is on the higher leadership position to also coaching the rest of the workforce brings in that power of many. And I'm sure organizations very well know what power of many can do to them and the communities as well.
Yes. Yes.
So thanks a lot for that, Johny. So let's move on to the next one, a very interesting one. One coaching memory of yours that you can share with the audience, obviously the confidentiality aspects being taken care of.
Yeah. And this was actually an experience I will share without giving too many details in the interest of confidentiality. And I'm sharing this because it freaked me out. I was surprised by this,
Hmm.
what the client got. And there was a client in the beginning of the pandemic last year
Mhm.
who lost her job due to the pandemic. She's a chartered accountant from India, done her finance post graduation in the US, and she was into her new job post that for 10 months. And the pandemic hit the world and she lost her job. And
Oh,
that's when she was referred to me for coaching because she was in a position of anxiety, feeling hopeless, and almost having to return back to India because the visa is not there. So, my first conversation with the client was, what is it that you want? She said, first, I want to be back in the US, which means that somebody should be able to sponsor the visa. And number two, I have a dream company. She named two dream companies. I'm not naming those companies. She
okay.
named two dream companies and said, I would love to be in one of these companies.
Mm.
Session number 7, she has already got her visa processed, which means she
Wow.
got a part time job. Somebody was. Session number 16, she's contemplating whether to go and accept the offer given by one of those two dream companies.
Wow.
And today I'm coaching the same client in that the same dream company. We've done many sessions and I'm coaching her to add a digit to her take-home salary from that company. That was a surprise. I couldn't believe that myself.
That's fabulous to even hear it out. And it's connecting me back to what you shared in the very beginning, the seismic shift, or also the transformational impact that coaching can do. I don't think we
Exactly.
are here trying to sell coaching. What's coming to my mind is how we lose out, or probably even including me, or lost out on the opportunity of a better version of myself by
Mhm.
not leveraging coaching as a space to know more about myself, learn more about myself, find the way myself, and achieve it myself. And I think in this example what you just shared, it seems to have happened exactly like that. And it's nothing less than magical to hear about it. And I'm sure for the person who went through it, it would be a lifetime's memory and experience. Great to hear that, Johnny. So with that, let's move on to the last question for today. Another very interesting, often a lot of debates happen on this subject. What do you see as the difference between coaching, mentoring, and if possible, therapy?
Um, in the process of coaching, the coach is not a mentor, not a therapist.
Okay.
However, what happens in the process of coaching through that seismic shifts resulting in transformational growth,
Hmm.
the client or the coachee becomes the mentor unto himself or herself and is able to heal some of the wounds that the client has been carrying over the past without dwelling into the past and moving towards the future. So, coaching is very different from mentoring and therapy, and the coach does not, in any manner, and I believe personally, this is my personal belief and my conviction as a coach, I will not be a mentor and I will not be a therapist, but I've seen in front of my eyes in the coaching space the client finding solutions as if it's a mentor who's giving solutions, which is a proof of the fact that the client has all the resources within,
Hmm.
and the coaching process is only an unlocking mechanism of that huge treasure box within. And in the process of finding that, it in itself becomes a therapy for the self.
Oh.
I've had clients coming into the session with a very emotionally down state and then going back and also resulting in some kind of a pain, body ache,
Hmm.
and then without focusing on any of these therapy topics, by the end I just say, where is that pain, where are you emotionally? Say, wow, I'm just realizing that it's gone. So the crisp answer to that question is coaching is definitely not mentoring, definitely not therapy.
Hmm.
However, the mentoring happens and the therapy and the healing happens within the client's being.
Fabulous. I think what stood out for me while you shared this are two lines. And before I start there, I'm enamored by the possibility of mentoring and therapy happening from within myself. And the two lines that stood out pretty much validates that when I hear client has all the resources within. So it goes on to tell me that it was all inside, and the coaching process is just an unlocking mechanism. Though I use the word just an unlocking mechanism, it probably wouldn't happen unless one takes the deep dive. And I'm hearing that the dive becomes easy when in when I walk in to a coaching conversation. It's great if
Yeah.
it comes from without having a coaching conversation, but if one would love to explore that side of them and explore those areas that they haven't so far, I think coaching seems to be creating that space for them. And they go after all the resources that they have within them. It's a fabulous way to hear, to ponder over the relationship or how they relate or unrelate, but how they are unique. But in coaching, I'm pleasantly surprised to, for the first time, hear that the mentoring and the therapy could happen from within for the same person. Thank you for that, Johnny. So with that, I have one last, can say, bonus question, and that is, given an opportunity, what would your one advice be for the wannabe coaches?
All right. I don't believe in giving advices, but I want to leave a coach question with
Okay.
the coaches. And that question is inclusive unto me. I'm asking this question to myself and maybe all the coaches who are listening, is that what is going to make me different today as a coach,
Mhm.
which I was not till my previous conversation?
Wow. I think that's pretty much setting the tone for a progress on a daily basis. I think I may share it this way, not just daily basis, on a conversation to conversation basis, which could be on a same day. Typically, many coaches tend to have two conversations as well. And I think the best of what can happen to them as a coach seems to be happening if one was able to ask this question to
Right.
themselves as, what do
Yeah.
I bring?
Because when I get this question live in me, when I am being a coach and not doing coaching.
Uh, mm,
So the question, a follow-on question to that is, how are you being a coach and not doing coaching?
mm, got it. I think what stands out for me while you share this is, I think I'm compelled to say, this space of being a coach to me seems to be a very sacred space. And if I am able
Correct.
to be in that space, I think that's when I'm I'm being as resourceful to the conversation as I can be. And if this can improve at every next conversation, I have no words where as a coach one would reach. And I think it's not again about achievement. That's probably felt by the coach themselves. The rest and the rest of the world being in where they are, I think the coach would sense it, feel it, and I'm sure the coach would smile when they stay in this sacred space. Thanks a lot for that, Johnny. It was a
Thank you.
calming effect for me while I was listening to you, and arrived at this that space being of sacred significance to the coach. Thanks a lot. So that's the last question, bonus question for today. Thanks a lot for joining for this conversation, Johnny. And I'm sure, I have no doubt, the audience and the listeners have benefited immensely from this conversation. And for the audience, if you have liked this conversation, please go ahead, like it, share it with all those whom you feel would benefit by watching this conversation for themselves as a coach, coachee, wannabe coach, or so on, in whatever way it could add value. And I would request Johnny now to quickly share as to how someone who's interested to get in touch with you can easily reach you.
I'm fairly active in all the social media, but very strongly in LinkedIn,
Okay.
and my LinkedIn would be shared. And on my LinkedIn, I do have my email ID on my contact and my mobile number, which is also my WhatsApp. So if anybody wants to have a an experience of a conversation with me can book my time by sending a WhatsApp text and mutually having a session, and then we can have that conversation.
Thank you for that, Johnny. I will go ahead and have it listed on the video as well as in the comment section. So anyone who would like to get in touch with you easily can reach you. And with that, the today's conversation comes to an end. I will also leave a small postcard, the good old fashioned postcard at the end of this video, so that you can quickly take a screenshot, save it for to reach out to Johnny easily. And till we meet again for the next episode, take care and please be safe. All the very best. Good times to all. Thank you, Johnny.
Thank you, Kiran, and thank you, viewers. Bye. All the best. Stay safe.
God bless all.